Welcome back for our last video of the year. Don't get too excited. You still got to get through this one, and this one is on research-based claims. Make sure that you have these notes because they are required on the day that they are due. So how can being able to write research-based claims help? You should already kind of know, this project that we're working on is based in research, and all good writing has claims and all of that. So that should be intuitive to you, but specifically to this project, we've got a focus point that says that you need to learn to use the elements of argumentation such as research-based claims, counterclaims, and calls to action in order to support a reasonable policy proposal. And you can see right in there the word research-based claims. And then just for the heck of it, I've got a picture of Batman because Batman is using research to solve a problem. And that's what you guys are doing in this project. You're using research to solve a problem. So you can be more like Batman. That's never a bad thing. So there are two ways that we can do research, basically. And most of us do research one way and not the other because the other way is harder. So most of us do research, and we do research a lot. We use Google all the time to research the answer to some kind of question. So we do research like this. We pick a topic. What do we want to know about? And then we pick that topic based on what we kind of already believe about that topic. So we pick, the topic of, I don't know, global warming, and we say that we don't believe in global warming. That's what we want. And then we go out and we find information, or we call this cherry picking information, that supports our conclusion. My topic is global warming. I don't believe in global warming. Therefore, I'm going to find all the information that exists about global warming not being a real thing. And I'm just using this as an example right now. I'm not saying that this is what I believe. I'm just saying this is how a lot of us do research. And we do this not just with global warming. We do this with a bunch of things. It should not be a surprise then for us to discover that this is the wrong way to do research. To pick a topic, decide what we want to prove about the topic, and then find the information that fits. That is the wrong way to do research. The better way, the right way to do research is this way, that we decide on a topic, that we figure out what we want to know about our topic, and we've already talked about research questions in class. We've all already written research questions. We talked about how a research question should not be a question that we already know the answer to. So that question is what we want to know about the topic. Then we do research and we find the information that responds to that question. And so that helps us limit the research that we're doing. We find just the information that responds to that question. And once all that information has been found and we have made sure that we understand it, we've read it and we've looked into it, then, so it says after carefully accounting for all of our research, we logically answer our question. And then we have to say, even if we dislike the answer. So if my topic was climate change, and I found through my research, asking the question, what is the likelihood that climate change is caused by humans? Let's just say that was my question. And I found through my research that it seems as though the likelihood that it's caused by humans is fairly high. Even if I didn't want to believe that, my research points me in a different direction, and therefore I have to go with what the research is showing, especially if it's, good quality research. So that's the right way. The right way is much more intense. It forces you to set aside your biases. It forces you to look at information that maybe you wouldn't have looked at before, but it's the right way to do research. And the ultimate goal of your research is then to make an argument for what you have found. Especially in this case, you do good research and then you're able to write what we call a policy proposal. So once the research is all done and you've drawn your conclusions, this is the process that you should go through. Well, we'll start with where we ended off. So you sift through the research to establish all of the relevant information. You've got your questions, so that should have helped you find relevant things. And anyway, you also need to pay attention to contradictory information because it might still be relevant. So you need to, just because it doesn't line up with exactly where you think it should go, you still hold on to that information until you know what to do with it. Second, you use the details from your research to answer your research question, and then you take note of the controversy it creates. So once you've taken your question, you've done your research, you've got the answer, then you look, in the case of this project, you look and see, well, what's the controversy that's being created here? And then once you've figured out the controversy, then you can take the information from step 2 and you can make a claim that logically solves the controversy that's created by answering the question. And that is the argument that you're making in your documentary. This is how to solve this controversy. So all the research was leading up to the documentary. Remember, you're not making a documentary that's just a whole bunch of information on a topic. That's a report. You're making a documentary that's supposed to be an argument for the solution to the controversy that arises out of your topic. And so this is the point where you can start putting the video together once you've got your claim. So here is what a good policy proposal should have. 1, it should present a solution to the problem or the controversy that you've discovered. 2, it should be rational and it should be based on your research. So, it has to go, the response should be going in the direction that your research has led you. 3rd, it should be consider what is realistic and acceptable to stakeholders. Remember in the last video we talked about who stakeholders are and what stakeholders might believe and what's important to them and what's acceptable to them. And so your policy proposal needs to take into account what's acceptable to your stakeholders. And then, sorry, that was it. So I'll give you an example here. The hypothetical research question is, what is climate change and how can we avoid it? It's not a great research question, but it'll do for this example. So we want to figure out what it is and how we avoid it. And then a bad policy proposal, once all the research on that is done, might look something like this. In order to avoid human-caused climate change, we should immediately stop using any devices that use fossil fuels, including but not limited to vehicles and power plants. Now, if we look at what a strong policy proposal does, presents a solution to a problem, yes, this presents a solution to the problem of climate change. Is it rational based on our research? Probably so. Our research is probably showing that fossil fuels are a large contributor to climate change, and so it's rational to say we need to, cut out fossil fuels. Where we run into the problem is that it's not considering how realistic this is to stakeholders, those people who are affected by fossil fuels or who have a stake in needing to be able to use fossil fuels, including basically everybody in the world who's going to say, no, I can't stop going to work just because I can't drive my car anymore. And no, I can't stop using my electricity just because the power plant is pouring out carbon. So it's not realistic based on the stakeholders. A better policy proposal might look something like this. In order to, again, prevent or stop human-caused climate change, the state of Washington should pass and enforce carbon-limiting laws and provide benefits for individuals and companies that actively participate in limiting their carbon footprint. Now, that's a little bit more complicated, but one, does it present a solution to the problem? Yes, it says we're going to limit carbon footprint. Is it rational based on our research? Probably so, if our research showed that fossil fuels or carbon are a problem with climate change. And is it realistic and acceptable to stakeholders? Maybe. It's at least more acceptable than stopping driving, right? And stopping the use of electricity. And it says limiting those things and providing benefits to people who, or especially companies who participate in limiting carbon footprint, is probably much more realistic. And so that would be the claim that I would want to, in this case, defend using my research throughout my documentary. We've learned about the research process and building a research-based claim. I want you to answer this question in your reflection. Have you ever misused the research process, and will this change how you go about projects even though it's more time-consuming? I'll see you with your notes when they're due.